Hello, I am Brandy Davis. I am the HMIS trainer with ECHO. This training video covers the HUD definitions of the four categories of homelessness. The four categories of homelessness via HUD are Category 1, literally homeless, Category 2, imminent risk of homelessness, Category 3, homeless under other federal statutes, Category 4, fleeing domestic violence. And we'll go through each of these categories, what they mean, and who would fall within each of them. People who fall under Category 1, literally homeless, are people that are either living in a place not meant for human habitation, an emergency shelter, or are exiting an institution that they have resided at for 90 days or less, and they were experiencing literal homelessness prior to that institution stay. So an example of what HUD means by a place not meant for habitation, this can be someone who is living in a car, a vehicle, sleeping outside. This can also be someone who is living in a place where they don't have access to utilities like heat, air conditioning, running water. So like living in a garage or an abandoned building where they don't have access to those things. And then examples of emergency shelter in our COC would be like the Arch, Salvation Army, McCabe, Foundation for a Homelessness Shelter. And so anyone who's staying in an emergency shelter is also considered literally homeless. And for the institution piece of this, that third piece, an example of an institution stay would be like someone who's staying in the hospital, incarceration, a residential treatment facility, or a mental health institution. So if someone has been staying in an institution for 90 days or less, and right before they went into that institution, they were literally homeless, so emergency shelter, outside, or in a car, then that person is considered literally homeless. So an example would be, let's say, if someone was incarcerated for 60 days and they were living outside right before they went into incarceration, that person is considered literally homeless. So really, just to summarize it, to sum it up, if someone is staying in a car or outside or in an emergency shelter, or they were staying in any of those places right before they were institutionalized for that 90 days or less, they are considered literally homeless. People who fall under Category 2 are those who are at risk of becoming homeless. So if someone knows that they are going to lose their residence 14 days after applying for assistance, they would fall into this category. And additionally, the client doesn't have another place to live after those 14 days and doesn't have support to obtain other housing. Like this is someone that does not have a relative they can stay with long-term or a friend. So these are people who are currently in housing, but will lose that housing in 14 days and most likely enter into homelessness. People who fall into Category 3, homeless under other federal statutes, are youth under 25 years old or families with children and youth who haven't had a lease or occupancy agreement in housing for 60 days prior to applying for assistance, and also youth who have unstable housing marked by 2 or more moves in the 60 days prior to applying for assistance. And it's expected that that housing instability will continue for them. Lastly, Category 4, fleeing domestic violence, is very straightforward. People who fall under this category are individuals or families that are fleeing domestic violence and they don't have another place to live or social support like family or friends or someone safe they can stay with long term. So who is eligible for coordinated entry? Only people who fall under Category 1, literally homeless, or Category 4, fleeing domestic violence, are eligible for coordinated entry. So if someone has been consistently staying with family, like long-term stably, they would not be eligible for the coordinated assessment. So if someone comes in for coordinated entry and they've been staying with family for at least a week prior and they know they're going to be staying with that family member the night that they've come in for coordinated entry, that person would not be eligible. But if the situation was that the client had been staying outside or a car or an emergency shelter in the last 7 days before coming in for coordinated entry, that person would be eligible. So only people who have been staying outside in a car, in an emergency shelter, or are exiting an institution that they've been at for 90 days or less and were literally homeless before that institution would be eligible for coordinated entry. And those who are fleeing domestic violence and don't have other housing are always eligible for coordinated entry. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that was covered in this training, you can always reach out to our team through the help desk and we can answer those questions for you.